I feel like there's a lot to cover when it comes to this arc, so let's not waste any time. Well, before anything, let me give credit where credit is due. The world of Elbaf is extremely interesting, right? The world of giants isn't weak at all in terms of lore and quality of background work. Elbaf's structure is one of its more unique, or the most unique features, I'd say. It being divided into the three levels, the underworld at the bottom, the sun world, and yeah, like the heaven world. What makes this vertical way of doing so interesting is instead of having us travel horizontally like in most areas, obviously, right, we get to explore vertically, which is always more engaging for viewers as it's an extremely visible escalation regardless of what direction you're going to, right? If Loki is in the underworld and that's going up, then dangerous, terrifying, the problem is coming up. When the Straw Hats travel down, oh, we're going into the bad side, we're meeting the problem. If it sounds like I'm not talking about anything, think about it like a video game, right? Like Castlevania, where you travel up to the problem facing other problems, meaning that being outside is being safer than inside. And then there was this movie about, like the elevator, and everything progressively got worse because there was less food and it was going down and down, and everybody at the bottom wanted to come up to the top. And that was a huge premise alone for a lot of people, and they're like, oh, I'm really interested in this movie. The same case is happening here. Now, what's also fascinating is that the underworld of Elbaf is known as the first world, from what I understand, where they originally built up from. This was the original Elbaf that we've heard stories about, a war country that was rough, terrifying, and scary. But on top of this foundation, they built a new society. They've essentially turned their original land into a prisoner area, which says a lot about the One Piece world, where what's allowed to prosper is built upon the remains of war. By having the world built on top of our problems, that means you can't ever count out the dark side because it's hiding in a place out of sight. The counter argument to that might be that the fact that the Aris Castle is on the Sun world, which means a problem came directly to where there are no problems. But I think also support has been what I've been talking about, because suppressing the history that has been the entire reason why you had been feared is the reason why they're having such a difficult time defending themselves. So essentially, the organization of Elbaf and how the Holy Knights had gone for their Sun world after failing with Loki is a sort of symbol for how people, being both mind and body, are truly powerful, right? Let me get to explaining. It's not bad that Elbaf is currently prioritizing education, better mannered people, and their quality of life, but making sure not to lose the strength aspect matters a lot. So let's go back into this, the education area. The cultural institutions in Elbaf are some of my favorite aspects. The Owl Library contains books rescued from Ohara, including texts about like the Void Century. This is my favorite part about Saul being alive, because while I understand that I'm just a viewer and will never get the full scope of the One Piece world in One Piece, I love the characters and I love that the characters can do so. A library formed with books that were meant to be destroyed by the government as they tell the truth of the world. It's beautiful, right? And I'm extremely biased because I have a large piece of my heart going to libraries in general and the love of the pursuit of knowledge. A library in a story is one of the very few places where you're allowed to have a large lore drop and it all makes sense. And of course, I'd love seeing Robin there, as she's one of the most powerful people in the world just based on how much she knows. The Walrus School is another great addition, as it's an educational institution founded by Saul where the giant children learn. I feel similarly about the school, especially since there's a lack of formal education in One Piece, which reflects extremely on the world. I'd love to see better educated characters interacting with our Straw Hats so we really get a gauge on how out of the loop our main characters are, Imagine Luffy and Zoro, who have great battle IQ, being explained basic geometry. It's like, I feel like they get the general ideas, like, oh, okay, I get how this happens when it comes to fighting, but when it comes to just like doing it, like it's a completely different thing. Like, I'm not sure that Luffy and Zoro can be good at a battle game, like a board game or something like that, but I understand that they know how to apply certain concepts in the fight. It's one of those things where you get it, but you don't get it. Now, after this is still more setting stuff. Aris Castle, since we already talked about it, it's the royal castle that had housed the keys to Loki's imprisonment with Scopper Gaban. It exists as a symbol of the next step in the story. story. That's my opinion on it. It's creative that this is where everyone is having their hurdle in the story happen. It's like, oh, we have to get this key. Oh, this is where the Holy Knights are showing up. This is the same thing. And I think it'll be more important, the actual place. It'll be more important when it's animated. But beyond that, I don't have too many thoughts about it. I do think it's one of those significant areas where it's not Eni's lobby, but the way that we recognize a place like Eni's lobby, we should low-key recognize Aris Castle for Elbaf. I think it's like the most important area. Now, that's about the positive things I have to say about like the setting itself, right? So now on to our characters. So first off, I think this has been a really weird arc, Straw Hats, purely because what the hell, nothing is happening with them. And I understand that this is purely about Elbaf, but we don't have to compromise on a lot of the stuff here. So what has Luffy done? He's finding out about Shanks' brother and what's going on in Elbaf. Okay, what else? Nothing. Plus, finding out about what's happening in Elbaf in general has been everyone else's thing too. So I can't even say it's just like a Luffy thing. This isn't just like an Elbaf problem. It's a pattern. It's like a tiring pattern that we're seeing. Because we have multiple arcs as of recent where we're truly getting into the world of One Piece, but I feel like we've gotten so far away from our characters, like our main characters. And I don't want to play the comparison game, man, but like, this is a key arc in one of our last parts of One Piece. So I'm really confused as to why we haven't got much progression for any of our characters, especially since it's been a long time for a lot of these characters for something to happen to them. The most significant thing is to happen was with Robin reuniting with Saul, but is that it? And when I have this conversation with other people who watch One Piece or read One Piece, the thing is they're so far out from the original arcs that they've seen that like they've just been catching up like for the past like 12 years or something like that. It's like, okay, we're just catching up as is. So I don't really think too much about the progression in our past arcs or whatever the heck. But me, I came back into One Piece relatively recently. I saw One Piece as a kid. It stopped showing up on TV, at least my TV. And then I pursued it recently because I'm like, you know what else? Like, we might as well, because it's one of the only things of the big three that I haven't seen. So a lot of the early arcs for me are fresh in my mind. But even then, it still feels like forever since we've truly invested in the Straw Hats. This isn't a point that I'm trying to like fight on. I like the team. I just need to hit them on some note at all, you know? And I'm not even going to say anything about Usopp yet because, you know, I already have a video where I said I'm not going to believe that this is an arc for him. My expectations won't be there. But I feel like we'll have to address it in this video just for the sake of people that didn't watch it, you know? As for our new groups and characters, I say that Loki is a great fake villain so far. And the dynamics of him against Elbaf is something of interest because of how large of a threat that he's perceived to be, right? Personality-wise, I think that he falls into that fake demon category, or at least fake demon adjacent, because I do believe that he's a strong, capable being that is, capable of destroying the world. My issue is that he doesn't actually have a personality that matches that. It's not really an issue, but I just like, it's one of those things you recognize. He's sort of like Mayuri from Bleach, or, you know, other strong joking type of characters. He's sort of like Doflamingo, but like a good guy ish, you know, like at least better than Doflamingo for sure in terms of the good guy area. But yeah, he's like not really, everything we know is kind of like a sham, and you can really tell purely off of his smile, honestly, and how he reacts to danger, even before you get into knowing his character. Because from where we are right now, we don't know too much, but I know that he's not that bad guy. He's pieces of a lot of extremely recognizable tropes in One Piece and even outside, but you know, it's not overdone. I think even considering that he's all these things that we've seen before, I'm still enjoying him, which means that it's working. As for the Holy Knights, this depends. I'm going to go at this like person by person. So Summers isn't serious, but the fact that he's, I said long enough into the video, the fact that he's like an asshole, which makes him not exactly cool, but reflective of an archetype of that type of character, it works. How I mean this is that it's a bunch of people who live in the land of Mary Joie. So Summers is someone who doesn't have any concern for others. And in addition to that, he doesn't care so much that he's an asshole. So to me, it checks out and is a fine representation of a character. Killing him is extremely goofy, so I don't exactly mess with that due to it being such a serious concept of a group, but I don't know. That can be seen as a sort of way, like maybe like Summers, to where Killingham is, he doesn't care about stuff so much that he's goofy, clumsy, and just careless in general. And I think maybe if he didn't show up in his own and didn't look so ridiculous, I'd probably feel differently. I think that's probably the main thing. Like he showed up to the scene as an extremely goofy looking like guy. Like it's a dragon with a little bubble head, and he's extending his neck all the way out of his clothes. It looks ridiculous, but yeah. Now as for Gunko, I think that they're extremely strong. I don't know if that's exactly how you say it, but I haven't seen too many people say it anyways. But the mysteriousness is interesting. I think I'm with many people that aren't behind the design of the character, because to me it's pretty odd how she looks like that. I think that she should look more like a knight, holy knight, like how the men are allowed to. I don't know why it's limited for her. It happens a lot with freaking Oda character design. I'm like, come on. Yeah, and the design philosophy between her and like the rest of the men, I think the gap in difference is too large for comfort, and I don't want to say that I'm disappointed in the design. I just don't think it's good for her. And others can say, it's not for you, or that you don't get it. It's a shonen, I don't really care. That's a pointless point. She can keep her hat and arrows and all, that's probably key for her character design. They're going to reveal that, oh, she's this different character because she looks kind of like the one person from the Revolutionary Army. All right, I can't remember her name off the top of the head, but I'm just like, okay, like she looks similar to her. Maybe she connects to that. I'm like, oh yeah, probably, but like the rest of the fit is just bad. Like I don't know what to tell you. Especially since this is a respected member of the team too. So I don't really know. I'm like, who's dressing her? I don't know. That's really odd. Now, Shamrock, this is exactly what I would want from an evil Shanks twin. Power, disdain, hatred, and drip. A hateful character that reflects his dad and the world around him, being the antithesis to the free bird we know as Shanks. How do I feel about the twin Shanks theory being real though? Well, I think it's giving us a singular clue back then, and then we go all in on it like it's the Oda special. That's kind of like how he does his story writing, and like it's really effective because he gets the title of like God of Foreshadowing. But it's one of those things where it's like, isn't a large drop supposed to have evidence? And evidence isn't one thing, you like, even if it's like, oh, okay, well, it's like you didn't see the scar. I'm like, there's a lot of ways to go about this too, and we hear certain things, and it's like some of these assessments where it's just like, oh, why would Shanks do this? And I'm like, yeah, of course, but I feel like it's one of those things that we just, I don't know. It was definitely gonna happen, but I feel like execution wise could have been better. Now, as a plot point, I think it's a good way to go about it. In addition to that, the plot point of Luffy taking out each Yonko is working great for Luffy, because if he beats Shamrock and Shanks is defeated by someone else like Shamrock or literally just anybody else, it still means that Luffy did it in a way. Like he's like, oh, I'm going to beat every Yonko, and he beats, in quotes, Shanks. Like this isn't Shanks, but he beats a Shanks. So it's like, you can still, I guess you can mark that off of your bingo list. I do want to know what Shanks' life did look like as the whole plot thing, but I feel like when it's going to be shown, it's probably going to be when Shanks is going to die, or at least when Shamrock is going to die or something like that. I could feel it. Like, I feel like that's like really the only outcome. That's not, I don't really get too much lore stuff from Oda, and even just with a lot of anime writers in general, they have this thing where it's like, I have to write down the entire backstory of the character before this character dies. That happens in JoJo too sometimes, but I think it's a key thing, I'd say. But yeah, I can feel it. I think it's only gonna happen when Shanks or Shamrock is gonna die, and we have to wait for a while to see that. So I don't know. I guess we just wait. Now, separately, I do want to talk about Nika showing up as a nightmare due to the powers of killing him. Seeing that Nika had been a fear for probably a good few of the people of Elbaf, like the children, but like I think even for people too, it works. Probably, I think adjacently. No, maybe it's just the kids. It's really interesting because I didn't think that the belief of Nika being a warmonger was really going to stick here in Elbaf. Like we were really going to make that point, because it had been so far off from the areas dominated by the world government. Like Elbaf is so out there, So I wonder how this works out in terms of the later implications in the story. My idea is is that the reason why Nika is believed to be a good guy is because, you know, he had been a liberator who worked to free the slaves from their suffering. And the reason why I think that characters would think of Nika as a warmonger would be the world government's hands in changing history to make you think that a liberator is a bad guy. But I think that there's a third whole perspective you get from Elbaf, which is the belief that Nika does bring war, but he brings good war. And the title warmonger isn't a bad thing because a lot of people in Elbaf still do like their own origins. This actually makes perfect sense when you consider Elbaf's warrior culture altogether, the giants' honor and strength in battle. And just, you know, if you're looking at Dorian Bragi fighting for 100 years over little squabble, for such a society, being a warmonger, you know, that's probably like a respected thing rather than feared. Maybe a combination of both. This explains why there'd be like a dual perception in Elbaf happening like this, especially like following after, what is it, King Harold, and like the whole, oh, we're gonna go peaceful now, and there's a bunch of people that have to believe that like, oh, maybe we should be afraid of Nika now that we live in this peaceful society. I'm new to this. Like, it's like the children, while those that were there for it all, they're honoring their traditional warrior values, and they're like, oh, you know what, no, I respect Nika. I'm not even scared of, I fear him in the same way you fear like a god, but like I respect my guy. So I think so, you know, like liberation requires conflict. You can't free the slaves without opposing their masters. And, you know, Vegapunk's broadcast had showed Joy Boy and Nika fighting against the alliance of the 20 kingdoms. And that was both liberation and war at the same time. And in the Harley associates Nika with like world destruction twice. Joy Boy too, but this happened twice. And he is still respected in the world. Their isolation from the world government's propaganda allowed them to keep the same perspective where Nika is a destroyer but also a savior simultaneously. For the story moving forward, this means that Luffy might face similar divided reactions from the giants once they really all see that he has these Joy Boy Nika powers. His actions will show the world, okay, what does Nika truly represent? And even like it says, the sun god ring, like it dances and laughs and guides the world. So it's like, okay, this is probably gonna lean to something better. But I also think that with Luffy having the Nika fruit, I think that there's also a second one. I didn't get proof of that, but I think that there's going to be a second one that is created from the dreams of people thinking of Nika more so as a warmonger. So they might get both sides and see it and be like, I don't really know what is supposed to be Nika if they're both like the same guy. So, you know, like there's a lot of good. My last thing is I'm really confused why Oda is solely prioritizing world building over the Straw Hat's character moments in what should be one of the most pivotal arcs in One Piece. I think that this is because Oda at this point believes that his characters are his characters, like they're static in their decision making. I think that he thinks that there's no more decisions to be made with these characters. Especially if Oda's large inspiration from Toriyama says anything, that means that the most compelling things that we'll see in terms of characters interacting with the themes of the story will mainly rely on, you know, protagonist versus antagonist rather than worry about other characters being involved for situations like this. The reason why I bring up Toriyama is like, you know, when you have Dragon Ball, you see Goku and what he deals with stuff like internally, like, oh, okay, man, this new information about the Saiyans really changes my perspective on anything or on everything. But when stuff happens to like Krillin, it's gonna be like, I don't really care. When stuff happens to Yamcha, it's like, oh, I don't really care. Stuff happens to Gohan, there was more care for. This is specifically for Dragon Ball Z, but a lot of the characters are very static in their character. Like there's no more development or anything like that for me to do, and I also don't plan to interact with the world much because I'm not that important of a character. That's what I feel like this turning into, even though that we have extremely important characters who have dreams and everything like that and have addressed it a lot, especially in early One Piece, but we're not doing much for them now. Now, what evidence do I have to support this claim? Well, the fact that the arcs that we've had, you know, like the character arcs, character-focused ones, they're the infrequent ones, if you count it up. And everything else, where it's us interacting with the world, or specifically just Luffy and how he interacts with the world, those are the frequent ones. So, past that, You know, is Robin's reunion with Saul enough of a character moment to justify the lack of development for others or the lack of interaction for others or anything thematic based? I don't think it is. I don't think that this is even like a fake out death that stuck with me, because a lot of these fake out deaths don't really hold ties with my thought process about an arc. A lot of time I'm just like, hey, look, fake death, real death. I don't know what's next. That's the main thing that matters to me. What happened with Usopp and Elbaf and this connection that Oda had been not, I don't want to say teased for years, but it's just like little things where it's like, oh yeah, hey, look, oh Usopp, I love giants. I want to be a part of the Elbaf stuff. Okay. I don't think Oda respects Usopp like at all. It's not. I think that one time that I'd seen an interview thing with him where he's all like, Usopp is meant to be the weakest Straw Hat purely because he is the closest to being like the people, or like that's what I want him to be. The idea is that if I make him weaker, people will relate with him more. And I don't think that's really stuff that people related with him on. They related with him in terms of the cowardice, but you don't have to be cowardice. You don't have to have cowardice and be weak at the same time. Like, you can get strong over time and still be a scared person. That's very possible. I don't know why you have to have one or the other. But I think honestly, he probably doesn't respect him. He's probably just like, he's a part of the gag crew, which I think it's like the gag crew is like, you have Chopper now. He's less of a character over time, which is really unfortunate for me. Frankie, Brooke, then we had Usopp, even Nami to an extent. Like, she barely gets stuff as is. I feel like the only characters that get stuff is, you know, Luffy gets stuff, Robin is important, Zoro gets fights. Zoro will never get a character thing ever. Like, he just gets fights, that's it. And Sanji, he got character stuff, and the most recent thing was Whole Cake Island, and then his DNA stuff happening in Wano. I'd say those are the most recent things we've had. So, I mean, you can also count Jinbei into stuff, but nothing's really happened to Jinbei, so what are we gonna do? Plus, he's really chill. I don't know. It's fine for him to be static. He's lived a long life as is. But man, that's really unfortunate, you know, because if you're a part of the gag crew in One Piece, it's kind of over for you. Like, you don't really do anything past your job or your power. Like, Chopper is a doctor, and the only time we're gonna see him do doctor stuff is like, oh hey, look, this is Wano, we have a sickness thing going on, you need to cure it, and the Marco thing and all that. And Frankie, it's like, oh man, you better fix our ship. Yeah, at least Brooke gets like some sort of interesting stuff, because it'd be like, okay, is it because he's funny, or is it because the music thing, or is it because he's really really fast? One of the three. That's usually how that works. For the rest of them, I don't know what you're supposed to do. But that's all I got for now. I really don't think that there's much else to talk about. I feel like I've covered essentially everything that's happened in Elbaf without talking too much about like the other giant characters, because it's not like compelling. They're just characters. Like right now, they're just like, oh, okay, they're people within the world. I'm not gonna say the most for them. It's not the craziest thing, but cohesively, I'm like, this is a good arc. I do think it's a good arc. Don't get stuff switched up. I do think it's a good arc. I'm expecting more, and expecting more is becoming more and more of like my fault, and I don't really like that. So yeah, that's about it. Hopefully I'll see you all on the next one. Thank you all for watching. Until then, peace out and Godspeed.